qualified than I to continue the conversation. In closing, there are 2 points I want to emphasize. The first is that it is a grave mistake to divorce ethics from economics, to try to separate business practice from moral judgment. This is a mistake which has corrupted our very understanding of economics and makes it necessary to rebuild that shattered science on the basis of political economy. Indeed, it is only through a moral understanding of business that we can grasp the terms and tools that make intelligent analysis possible. The second point is that new economies will have to be built. And this is a task that will fall upon your shoulders. Let us be candid here. I am an old guy. Gray hair, gray beard, still incredibly handsome, but old. You'd laugh. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This task will be mainly yours. And frankly, I'm not too sure you want too much help from my generation. Indeed, my generation is perhaps the most self-centered in the history of my country. My parents survived the Great War and the Great Depression, and they wanted to be sure that their children did not suffer the same trials. And we didn't. But what our parents gave us as a gift, we received as an entitlement. And no one is grateful for an entitlement. Rather, they complain that it is not large enough, no matter how large it is, and that it costs too much, no matter how little it costs. Indeed, if there was ever a triumph of the economics of self-interest, it was in the United States. But alas, the gifts we have received, we have not passed on. Rather, we have left our children with debts they cannot pay, obligations they cannot meet, wars they cannot win, and infrastructure that will no longer serve. We received the past as something that was our due, but we robbed our children to maintain our present. This cannot continue and won't. You will be faced with some fundamental decisions, whether to try to maintain a society of pure self-interest or one built upon the common good. Your presence here indicates an interest in the latter, and that is a good start. But you must decide whether your careers and your jobs will be just a way of getting or also a way of giving. Whether it will be just a foray into more materialism or a true vocation, a gift to yourselves and to your children. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that talk. That was great. You mentioned that finance is expanding faster than the goods it represents, and therefore that's when we can no longer trust it. It seems like economics has moved towards more of a financial science, and I was wondering, how much do you think education plays a role in kind of losing the social and psychological aspects of economics?
Oh, I think it plays a tremendous, crucial role. Of course, you're closer to undergraduate and graduate curricula right now than I am in the field of economics, but everything I see in the texts is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the human person. And in order for economics to be the kind of science it has become, you almost had to reinvent the human person into a form that nobody, no philosopher, psychologist, sociologist, psychiatrist from this age or any former age would actually recognize. But that doesn't happen naturally. That's educated. Oh, I'll give you a wonderful example. I'm sure some of you have heard this, but they do lost wallet tests in colleges. You know, they lose a wallet and see who returns the wallet with the money still intact. Well, most students from most disciplines, art or philosophy or engineering, whatever, return the wallet, except economics students. It's the value of a good education, I guess. Okay, if there are no further, yes, you had one.
Aren't you being a little bit catastrophic with this vision of economics? Sorry for the question, but isn't it something to rescue from this war that is ending, this era that is ending?
Mm-hmm. And that's that's a very good question. I know you're talking about the view of economics. I think I'm not worried about that at all. The real question is whether we are facing a fundamental crisis or just another blip. You know, these things go up and down. And I think, well, one, we haven't got enough economics to know, okay? That's scary in itself, okay? Because if you didn't have enough economics to predict it, you don't have enough economics to predict its end, okay? If you didn't have enough economics to describe the situation before the crash, you don't have enough economics to describe the situation after the crash. That's our problem now. I hope that I am wrong. I hope you get back here at the next IPADI conference and you say to Mario, remember that nutty speaker we had last time, because everything's so fine and wonderful. We've all got wonderful jobs and a 50% pay raise. And a new corner office to go with it. And I hope that is the case. But as the saying goes, you hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Hello. I've been seeing different kinds of structuring work, teamwork, with all this technology that is it's around us. People thinking and planning things in one country, other people working together in India and animating cartoons in Vietnam. And everything just going into one great FTP server. How do you think corporations are dealing with this kind of new ways of working with individuals all over the world that not necessarily are attending a 9-to-5 job in a certain office?
I think that's such a good question because the reaction, what's actually happening in production now is very interesting. Production is actually distributing itself throughout the world. In fact, now in most manufacturing, it is considered crass and vulgar to actually own a factory. I mean, factories are things that, you know, people from the third world own, but actually dealing with workers and ordering materials and all of that. That's just work beneath our dignity. So what they try to do is to control the process, disperse the work, but control the process through control of the distribution channel and through legal patents. Okay, so what does Nike make? Nike doesn't make a damn thing. Okay, come in. Oh. Nike makes the swoosh, and that's all they make. And they allow the swoosh to be put on a variety of products, and the swoosh blesses everything that it touches. Okay? But the danger is that somebody's going to say, wait a second, we're just paying these people to use their swoosh. Let's just tear off the swoosh. We can make the same product for local consumption at 1/10 the price, still pay our people twice the wage, and make 3 times the profit. So I think that in the current circumstances, these dispersed corporations are actually laying the groundwork for their own demise. Yes.
Hello. My question is how to convince entrepreneurs in developing countries on social responsibility. What are the strongest points that we can use?
Oh, you have, I think, people here who are much better than I would be at understanding that question. However, I think the answer is going to come down to some kind of cultural question. And cultures with weak societies it's going to be a bigger task than cultures which are very family-oriented, community-oriented, etc. Where the real problem, I think, comes in where you have the clash of cultures in the same space, okay, where you have very community-oriented societies, and you have sort of forces, I don't want to use the word westernized because that's not exactly what I mean, but nevertheless you have these forces of individualism imposing themselves on societies which have been traditionally communal. That's where you get the real problems. And frankly, I personally don't have any real answers, but I think there are people here who can talk about that much better than I can.
Hello. My question is around BRIC. We've been hearing about BRIC a lot, but I understand, and my feeling is that most people in the U.S. are basically in denial what BRIC really is, because they're not getting all together on cheap commodities, and they're putting technology, they're investing in education. So we're talking about these BRIC economies taking over eventually the size of the economy in the U.S. But how do you think are they in denial? Do you think that the people in the big corporations in the U.S. are taking advantage of these new economics that is going to reshape the world maybe in 10, 15, 20 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't actually know, but let me, it's a good question. The problem is I heard this same question 20 or 30 years ago, only it didn't have BRIC. It had Japan attached to it. Now, 20 years ago, Japan was going to take over the world. I mean, this was a popular cultural motif in the United States. We had movies about it, you know, which were frankly racist in character and warning us that we'd all better learn to speak Japanese, et cetera, et cetera. And if you just white out the dates of the newspaper and change Japan to BRIC, it's exactly the same debate, all right? So, I don't know the answer except for that I'm skeptical, okay? This looks to me like a rerun of the Japan is taking over the world debate. And I think the BRICS have some internal problems that are going to prove, they're almost the same problems that Japan had, for instance, in the area of demographic problems, in the area of banking problems. It looks to me like the same train wreck in slow motion, but I don't know.